sunny afternoon, well, at least here from Manila. Um, I know we also have people coming in from Singapore, Indonesia, and some from India as well. So good afternoon and welcome to this August or this month's Learning Forum series, Managing Difficult Situations with Emotional Intelligence. So of course, I know at least all of us here has already heard the term emotional intelligence. And I'm really glad that still a lot of people, we're glad the whole Contigal Trenocate team is really glad to have you all here, that, it shows that still a lot of people want to learn further about this topic. So I know you're all excited as much as I am. So without further ado, I will now be introducing our speaker for today. So she is someone with more than 25 years of experience in management consulting, and she has already worked with us at Quintegral, most especially in designing programs. It's one of her greatest strengths, and we know it for sure. So, of course, to get us started, here is Maita Beltran. Thank you.
Thank you, Ali, and good afternoon to everyone who actually made time to join us here in our learning session for this afternoon. And I'd like to just share my screen just for us to see if it's working. We've already tested it earlier. My name is Maita Beltran, and I'll be with you this afternoon, at least for the next hour. And I have been doing this for the longest time since 2019 or 2016. No, 1996. Let me get that right. 1996. Okay. And we're really excited that everyone's here. And so let's begin. Okay, let's begin with our topic for this afternoon. Just a show of hands, who among you have heard of the term emotional intelligence and have been practicing it? Just a show of hands. Maybe we can see. Yeah. Okay. We're seeing quite a few hands being raised. And we hope that for this afternoon, we'll be able to actually share something that's different, or at least help you, refresh and jog your memories about it, especially that EI is very helpful in, for us to actually cope with what's been happening, not only locally in the Philippines, but also globally. Okay. For this afternoon, we have about 4 aims. No, we have 4 items that we will be addressing. Our objectives for today include the following. Okay, first is that we will be reviewing the role of trust and emotional intelligence in managing difficult times. And while everything that's been happening since 2020, it happened to all of us, but we all experienced it very differently. Okay. And as we are emerging also from the last 2 years, we still are experiencing some difficulties, not only in our professional lives, but also in our personal lives. So we will learn also how empathy can help to manage emotions. Okay? Because, VUCA, everything is just happening so fast, change is happening so fast. And it just brings up a lot of attitudes about whatever is happening to us. It surfaces a lot of unhealthy emotions also, and we will learn how to manage that. Okay, today we'll also be identifying how to prepare for difficult conversations using an easy to follow process, because really, all of these emotions, these are not just standalone, or it doesn't just affect us or the self, but because of everything that's been happening around us, and they still are happening around us. Okay, we are already communicating with each other very differently. Sometimes we behave, sometimes the slightest bit of stimulus actually brings up all the ugliness in us, no? And the fights happen, the conflicts happen. So we'll also be addressing that. Okay, and finally, we'll understand how to deliver feedback and constructive criticism effectively. And so with that, let's just establish the scenario first, something that's very real for all of us. We'll start with the pandemic. Okay. And at this moment, let's all just take a deep breath, arrive in this minute, just be very aware of where you're sitting, be very aware of your surroundings and the way that we're breathing also. I'm not only doing this for you, but I'm also doing this for me, just to be grounded in the material, be grounded in the next 60 minutes. Okay. So our work disruption since 2020. Okay, we all experienced it. The pandemic happened around the world, and work has been very difficult for most of us. Okay, a lot of shifts, a lot of changes happened also in terms of the ways that we have been working, and a lot of challenges along the way. And when we talk about the difficult situations that we are experiencing today, even up to today, it can include work-life balance. Okay, so and work-life balance is different for every person. It's not just a contest of who is having it worse than everybody else. So remove that from our minds. Sometimes it's all about, I'm having it worse than you, or I'm in a better position than anyone else. But it's really not about a contest. This is not a contest, no. We've all been experiencing an imbalance and also difficult situations that continue to happen. So some of us are still working from home. Some of us are already shifting into a hybrid kind of setup, work setup. No? So the lines are very blurred, even at home. Okay. This is also about managing chaos or attempting to manage chaos the best way that we can. So VUCA has been a buzzword also in the last 5 years, not even before the pandemic hit. But now it has actually shifted to BANI. You can look that up, Google it. It's about brittle, about being anxious and all that. And it's a word that's worth knowing, because then we become very aware of what we can do about it. Okay. So from this perspective, no, even on an organizational perspective, this could translate to most of us working harder than ever, not trying to save the business. And from a personal perspective, it's also about being a caregiver while working at the same time. We also have difficult situations that could be about as simple or even as complex as stable internet connections. So we know of people scrambling to just get things working a few minutes before an online event or an online meeting even happens. So that creates a lot of anxiety in all of us. And this can lead to having difficult conversations with people who matter, people that we work with, people who matter most to us, even at home, and surface unhealthy emotions or attitudes about emotions. So essentially, okay, the work disruption since 2020, it has been very chaotic, and everyone is having to handle challenges and has challenges that have never been there before. Okay, so a lot of things that we probably have been taking for granted or really not taking notice of suddenly has become bigger than life. And a lot of us must have experienced at one point or another, when the pandemic started, this sensation of drowning and not really knowing how to surface, or how to kick ourselves upwards so that we can actually start breathing again. Some people are tasked with being a teacher, being a parent, and professional all at the same time, even during work hours. Okay. And so with that, I think we're launching on the first of 4 polls, no? And this first poll is about, what is the biggest challenge you've had since 2020 from a personal perspective? And we have the following choices. Was it about childcare? Was it about homeschooling children, medical illnesses for yourself or family, household pay cut or loss of employment, and finding balance? No? And we're seeing here the numbers are actually happening right in front of all of us. Okay, it's about finding balance, finding some sense of equilibrium, that we're okay. That I think it's anchored also in the word hope, and coming from that space of just wanting to make everything work. Okay, on a personal basis, from a personal story, Okay, I also experienced that at the onset of the pandemic. So suddenly everything was just very different. I've had to learn how to work online because my work actually has always been face to face with a lot of people, even a series of let's say team building programs for up to 800 people. And suddenly this small machine right in front of me intimidated me. The technology intimidated me. So thank you so much for everyone. To everyone for answering. No, we're seeing here that finding balance leads, followed by, I think there's a tie between childcare and medical illnesses, no? And finally, we have homeschooling children and household pay cuts or loss of employment. Okay, so it's best that we're very aware of that, no? And maybe at this point, try to see how the next few months would be for us. Okay. And then let's proceed to the next one just to get a sense of where everybody is at. Okay. For the next poll, we have this question: what is the biggest challenge you've had since 2020 from a professional perspective? Okay. All right, Nikki's here. Okay, so we're seeing here some choices. No, is it about working remotely, technology issues, and unfamiliarity with it, communicating with colleagues, addressing difficult conversations remotely, and taking on more or multiple roles, no, at work. So let's just give everybody a few moments to submit their answers here. We are seeing here at least not taking on more or multiple roles is leading. Okay, I can also relate with that because being online and all that, it's all interconnected. Okay, it's all interconnected, and having to have to kind of like split yourself and still integrate yourself into one person, one mind, one body, one spirit, one heart, and all that, just to make things work. Okay, technology issues come in second. Okay, and even as we are getting used to this kind of interaction, no, in this kind of working, being online and all that, there is always the fear that everything will just drop and everything will stop and freeze. Okay, so thank you so much for that. No, again, these are our realities. The pandemic is one big ocean. We have all been in it, but we have been on different boats. And again, just as a gentle reminder, this is not a contest of who had it worse or better than anyone else. So thank you so much for acknowledging, no, and trying to recall also the biggest challenges that we've had in the last 2 years. Okay, so moving on, and I am also noticing that most of our attendees here are women, and there's merit in actually sharing this, not the impact of the pandemic on women. There have been numerous studies about it and surveys in the last 2 years, but it's also good to note that the pandemic really affected the women, the female population, very much, no, especially women of color, and they have been more likely to have been laid off or furloughed during the COVID-19 crisis, no, and this is stalling the careers and jeopardizing also financial security for most women. So let's take a look at this. Let me just wear my second pair of eyes. So based on a study, no, 1 in 4 women have considered downshifting or leaving the workforce because, again, multiple roles. If you have children, then it's all about childcare. If you have other people in your household that you needed to take care of, somehow the job of taking care of them was relegated on to women. No? So they considered downshifting or just leaving the workforce. And this is followed also by companies risking the loss of women in leadership. Again, it was always, I guess, no, it boiled down to a choice for our women leaders who have climbed the ladder of success for them in however way that they were actually defining it for them. So it must have been, okay, must have been the choice between, do I take care of my family, or do I just, focus on work? And this was a huge struggle for everybody, in the last 2 years. And we are only hoping that things will get better, okay, as we continue on and see how things are with regards to the pandemic. Finally, okay, we all know this, DE&I, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belongingness, um, anchored on the gender side of it, okay, that the impact of the pandemic on women could have meant also the unwinding years of progress in gender diversity. So we all know that we've been seeing progress in gender diversity, but the pandemic threatened it, that it can all unravel if we don't support each other, okay, through D&I and belongingness efforts. So this has also been a very huge thing in the last year, okay, where having this different platform in front of us, that was a challenge, very difficult situation to make things work. But at least, things are moving. No? The pandemic has intensified challenges that women already have been facing even before the pandemic happened. So given all of these difficult situations, how can we manage them, the best way that we can? Okay. We are using this approach to managing difficult situations at the workplace, and it's twofold. First, we will take a look at what trust is, okay, in the context of this session, and also in the context of trust at the workplace, given the different ways that we are already working right now. And also, of course, emotional intelligence, which is the meat of our session for this afternoon. Okay, so what is trust? You can also try to use the chat if you'd like to do that. But for this session, trust is a critical component in creating a workplace where all of us are engaged, we're being productive, we're happy, we're continually improving. And some benefits of having high levels of trust include, of course, increased levels of job satisfaction. Everybody loves their job. They like reporting to work. They like working on deliverables. Okay, increased levels of productivity also happens, and lower employee turnover. Now think about this in the context of what's happening now. We now have a term called pandemic hires. Okay, the new generation, the Gen Zs, are coming in, okay, and joining the workforce. They are growing, slowly growing, and then, but part of what we term the pandemic hires. Okay, and imagine how different it is to have to communicate how it was to how it is right now, no? But people who have high levels of trust in their leaders, their organizations, and the people that they work with, these are the same employees who are also more likely to recommend their organization to others. And so we will have another poll, okay? And this is about trust, and trust that happens within your workplace. On a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being the highest, okay, how would your team members rate their level of trust in you? Okay. Okay. And this is about wherever you are in your organization, no? Even as a team lead, if you're independent, if you're working, but you work with people, you interact with people. Okay, if you're a leader, high-level leader, C-suite and all that, okay, how would your team members rate their level of trust in you? And we are saying here a good rating, which is 4. Okay, 100% answered. Thank you so much for that. All right. Now, the question here is about, I guess, increasing that level of trust. It doesn't necessarily mean that from rating of 2, that it would immediately jump to 5. Okay, let's be real here. Okay, we can only do so much, and just focus our energies also in just increasing it, leveling up at least one notch higher. And for those who are already at the fore, think about this now. What can you do? What is that one thing that still needs to be done, or that our teammates, okay, our team members need to see and feel and observe from us, so that our 4 becomes a 5? Okay, so that's that. And the question now is, why is trust even important? Okay, why is it important at all? Okay, so we're seeing here a bunch of numbers, no? Based on the survey by Ernst and Young, okay, that 1 in 3 employees don't really trust their leaders. Okay, and if you're the employee, then you would know, okay, why you don't trust them. But if we are leaders, okay, in this group right here, this space right here, then it's also good to know there is also value in trying to find out, okay, through many ways, which we'll talk about later on why they can't seem to trust us. Okay, we're also seeing here that 46% of employees place a great deal of trust in their employers, so that's also good. But again, what would make the numbers jump up? Now, from 46% to 50% to 75%. What is that missing ingredient that employees need to experience and to see in place? Is it purpose? With purpose is such a big word also right now, trying to see actually where we are at in terms of moving forward. Are we just raking in the income? Are we pushing people to work more than they should? Okay, so these are things and factors to consider if we want to build trust with our employees. And we're also seeing here that 15% report very little or no trust at all. And that Generation X, my generation, places the least amount of trust in employers. Okay, so these are the numbers culled from a survey. And while we want to focus on the Gen X, no, maybe they have leveled up already, okay, we also need to consider again the new generation that's been joining the workforce since 2 years ago. Okay, the Gen Z born between 2001 and 2020, the millennials are still there. The Gen X's, the baby boomers are kind of slowly easing out already from the workforce. Okay, so when we focus on the Gen Z, okay, research also finds that Gen Z values equal opportunity for pay and promotion, and opportunities to learn and advance as leading factors in trusting a future employer. So again, that word trust, no, what will make them trust us more? And then also kind of erasing the stereotypes that we have for each generation. Okay? And the millennials have been hearing this a lot about themselves. So let's try to open our minds also and see what each generation can still contribute up to this day. Okay, and because the question is, if I don't trust my leader, okay, will I feel that I am being supported by my leader? So that's a question that we also need to answer. And to establish or enhance trust in our teams, consider these 4 essential cornerstones. You might want to take a pen or take a snapshot or screenshot of this. Okay, we will be now exploring the 4 cornerstones of trust, starting with credibility. So this is one important component of what trust can mean for an organization and for the people who work with us. Okay, credibility. And this is about people having confidence in our judgments, in our skills and abilities. Okay? We can't just wing it. We can't, try to do magic or, try to convince them that things are in place when they can clearly see that it's not. Okay, credibility would also show us that they believe and trust that you are committed to the goals of the organization, that you are not usurping resources, or you are not just, grandstanding your own capabilities. No? Credibility could also mean that they believe that you have what it takes to lead them and the company successfully in a competitive and global environment, and an environment that again is always changing, no? Because we don't know where we are headed for the most part. I'd like to mention also that because of the VUCA-ness of it, we cannot now plan long term. It used to be that companies or leaders would actually plan for, have 5-year plans, 10-year plans. Now we need to trim it down and whittle it to about 6 months to a year. That's the most that we can do, because again, a lot of changes happen. So that's credibility. No, we need to be able to do that. And credibility is not just seen behaviorally, it is also felt. Okay. Next is consideration as a cornerstone of trust. This is when people believe that you care about them, okay, that you are very considerate about their feelings and their own life stories, okay, and that they trust you to look out for their interests even when they are not present. Okay. Consideration is about our team members or our employees knowing that you respect them and that they can rely on your help when they need it. Okay. So a lot of sensitivity actually needs to be added here now when we talk about consideration, because some people they have a hard time, they find it difficult to ask for help. So a lot of sensitivity or a lot of empathy from our parts will actually be useful, so that we know if somebody from our team and the people that we work with, even people outside the work, if they really need our help. No? The third is consistency, where people believe you work from a center of integrity. Okay, so it's not one day you're very caring, you're very trustworthy, and the next day you're uncaring. There's no warmth in you. Okay, so that's what consistency is all about. That you work and you operate from a space of integrity, that you are whole, okay, and that they can rely on you to do what you say. Okay. This is also about your leadership style as being consistent with how individuals prefer to be working with you. Okay, so this also means that you walk your talk. So consistency is one. And finally, we go to what we call communication. Okay, so 4 C's, the 4 cornerstones of trust. Communication, what is it about? Okay. When we talk about communication, in order to strengthen or establish trust in the workplace and the people that we work with, this is about them, not people knowing what you expect and trust you to negotiate if necessary. Okay. They trust you to give them timely and effective feedback on their performance and know that you're willing to receive feedback as well. So feedback is a two-way thing. Okay. And again, the intricacies and the nuances of giving feedback, we need to be able to know that also. So that feedback doesn't sound like a complaint or a criticism. So we need to be able to come up with, possible realistic solutions and make it a healthy way of communicating with each other. Okay. Here in communication, it's also about our people, no? The people that we work with, feeling that we are open to their ideas and concerns. So we are debunking the myth of leadership here, okay, where leaders from many, many years ago, maybe decades ago, no, it was always about directing, it was always commanding, okay, and just shouting out orders. So the world has changed and it still is changing. And if we want to be effective managers and leaders, we need to change with the world as well, no? And the needs of the new workforce. Okay. So with that, let's continue on. Okay. And see how EI plays into building trust as well. Okay. Now, what is emotional intelligence? As defined by this slide, this is the ability to perceive emotions, to access and generate emotions, to assist thought, okay, to understand emotions and emotional knowledge, and to reflectively regulate emotions to promote emotional and intellectual growth. So that's a mouthful to define what emotional intelligence is. Okay, but we have been practicing it. We just need to heighten our self-awareness about it. Okay, and so with that, let me present to you the leading with EI model from AMA. Okay, so the emotionally intelligent approach for leaders. This shows the relationship between the leader's individual growth and the development of their leadership ability to influence and develop others for the greater good. So it's always that, no, what can benefit everybody, because it's not only us who will benefit from it. Okay, so win-win. So let's take a look at this. This slide will build. Let's take a look at the inner circle, okay, where the cornerstone of EI leadership is depicted. Okay, and there are four of them. Okay, there are four of them. First is that we need to be aware, which is the ability to understand our own emotions. Okay, understanding our own emotions. What are you feeling right now? Next is to connect, which is the ability to perceive and understand the emotions of the people around me. This requires a lot of openness from our part also to perceive, okay, and to actually feel and get a strong sense of what people are going through. Third is to manage, which is the ability to monitor and assess our own emotions and to make the necessary adjustments, okay, to get out of that difficult situation. And fourth is to achieve, which is the ability to direct our emotions in a productive manner, which means that we cannot stay stuck. Okay, we know this saying, it's been all over the internet, all the memes and all the advices, no, where it's okay not to be okay. Okay, and we believe that, I believe that. What is not okay is to stay not okay for a long time. Okay, so that means this will require us to direct our emotions in a productive manner. Okay, now let's explore the outer circle of the graphic, which is focused on the 6 leadership competencies to drive results, to increase satisfaction, and to create dynamic organizational cultures. So we are seeing here personal influence, which is really, again, about building your personal credibility with others, no? And where you get to apply empathy as a powerful influencing strategy, okay, if you are a coach, and analyzing resistance through the lens of EI to identify alternative influencing approaches. In essence, this is about using questions to find out more about the other person, to understand them, to learn their language, and for them to know and feel that they can trust you. We are also seeing here in the outer circle inspiration, which is actually about applying your skills to inspire, okay, other people using EI. Tell your stories. Use your own personal stories, no? When you'd like to inspire people and you know, help them get out of that negative space. So using more emotive language and personal stories is a good way to go to build up this kind of competency. Third, we have collaboration, no? Which is about identifying different types of leaders and colleagues, okay, that strengthen their relationships and creativity. So collaboration really is about interactions, no? Healthy interactions. Okay, and that can only happen when you have trust in place. That can only happen when we are willing to actually establish rapport with other people. Maybe start with identifying what's similar about you, even if it's very physical. Okay, the way that you cut your hair, the way that you wear your clothes and all that. So start with something small and then build from there. We are also seeing change here, which is about describing how emotions impact attitudes towards change. Again, this is a mindset that we need to be very aware of. If we want to stay stuck, again, it's about knowing how to respond in a healthy way instead of just knee-jerk reactions or reactions. Okay. Here in change, it's also about identifying skills that we can use as leaders. Okay. So that if people around us are kind of resisting the change, then maybe we can also help them and be gently easing them into embracing that change. And of course, needless to say, as leaders, we also need to be able to embrace change, okay? Because people look at us, people see us, okay? Then there's what we call healthy conflict, which is recognizing the central role of relationship development, okay? The important thing about recognizing this healthy conflict is that think of the end in mind. Think of what can benefit everybody in that difficult situation. Okay. And finally, we have team leadership. Okay. And wherever you are in the organization, this is something that we need to kind of develop or strengthen if it isn't strong yet. Okay. This is about assessing team performance and being realistic about it. No favoritisms, no padrino systems and all that. This is about assessing team stress levels and the mood to remain optimistic and productive. So a lot of sensitivity again, no, and a lot of awareness of what's going on, that people around us are human, that we are also human. So when we build a culture of healthy conflict practices, it's using what we call the 3 V's, no, which is verbal. So take note and be very aware of what we say, the words that we use, okay, when we communicate with each other. The second V is visual, is how we look, okay? And authenticity actually plays into that when we sound, okay, exactly the way that we look. Actions and words are in sync. Okay? We are not saying something and then behaving a different way, because again, that will just be an area where your credibility or your integrity and authenticity can be questioned. And then vocal also is something, how we sound is something that we need to be very aware of. Okay. So given this model, let's bring you and direct you to another poll. It's the last one. No? Out of the 6 categories of emotionally intelligent leadership skills, which is the biggest challenge for you? Is it personal influence? Is it about inspiring others? Is it about establishing healthy collaborations? Is it about addressing change, no, and making change work for us? Is it about healthy conflicts and what can come out of conflicts or difficult situations? Is it about team leadership? Okay, let's give you a few minutes of that as we slowly near the end of our webinar. We are seeing here, no, and it's probably because due to the pandemic, and as we are finding more new ways of working, okay, in these times, we are seeing here healthy conflict leading, okay, the ranks. Okay, thank you so much for that. And some are still changing. Okay, so healthy conflict, again, you can start weaving a story if they are interconnected also in your individual lives. That healthy conflict, okay, brought about by the changes that's been happening and continues to happen in our lives. Okay, so that actually makes a lot of sense. Personal influence is paired here, okay, is tied here with team leadership. And again, when we talk about personal influence, think about it. Think about how you can build your skills, your competencies, so that you are not alone, and that people know that you are human enough to actually reach out to them. Okay? Even if you are a leader, even if you manage people, okay, that they can actually see that human side in you. And so with that, thank you so much for answering that. Let's continue on with this afternoon session. Okay, let me just remove things here in front of me. Okay. So, having gone through the previous topics, okay, we are now going to jump in to this one factor that can actually help us deal with difficult situations and understand people more. And when I say people, these are people who we work with, people who we live with or interact with, and also us. No? to be gentle with us, to show empathy even towards ourselves. So empathy is defined as that feeling that you understand another person's experiences and emotions. This is the ability to share someone else's feelings, and it doesn't necessarily translate to you sympathizing with them or feeling sympathy for them. Okay, so that you know the difference. And as leaders, we have many opportunities to actually show empathy to the people that we work with. Okay. How do we do that? Examples of such opportunities may include when a colleague's project falls apart. So sometimes, whether you're close to them or not, you show some empathy. Okay, you sit with that person and see how you can actually tilt the energy so that they don't get stuck in that negative space. Okay, another opportunity could be when your colleagues and your boss must take responsibility for a failed project, or when a team member is recognized for going above and beyond expectations. That is also showing empathy. So empathy is more positive, no? It's more dynamic. It brings you closer to making people feel good about themselves and seeing the gift in challenges that happen to them. So these are just some examples of opportunities where we can show empathy, no? Now, let's take a look at this. As a leader, okay, and wherever you are in the organization, what can we do to help our team also cope with the changes? Okay. So here are just some suggestions, okay, where maybe you can use it not even in the workplace, but also in your own personal lives. It's about communicating thoughtfully, not being rash or not being judgmental or being quick to judge other people. Offer also self-disclosure, which builds trust because it's about being transparent and being human. Now, when you show appreciation, be that grateful leader. Okay? Be the leader who knows how to thank people for their successes, for their small wins. Okay. Again, use multisensory and active listening. So multisensory would be the three V's, no? How you sound, how you look, and the words that you choose. Okay. Provide feedback also and ask questions. And finally, we have this set also of suggestions that you might want to practice, no? Where you get to see the gift, find the gift in all the challenging situations and difficult situations. So this is about where you position setbacks and risk taking as growth opportunities, not only for you, but for everybody in the organization. Where you set realistic expectations and communicate roles and responsibilities very clearly so that people are not running around like headless chickens. Okay, you create an environment of inclusiveness and belongingness, and again, study it, learn what DEI and belongingness means, so that people are clear where you are coming from and then not just jumping on that DEI bandwagon, no? And organize team building activities. So that can actually help in establishing trust, okay, and developing EI among our teams. Okay. So as a leader, your role has not really changed, okay, but it has expanded given what we have been experiencing since 2020. We still have the need to have difficult conversations and to help individuals to develop themselves, okay, and strategize how to be more effective with what's going on. And knowing how to handle conflict or difficult conversations can be just that. It can be difficult. So here's a simple conversation tool that can help you plan a dialogue to serve as a guide during difficult discussions or conversations. Okay, let me now present to you the flip model. No, flip like flipping a switch on and off. Okay, or flipping or spinning something, turning something from positive to negative to positive again. Okay, when things are not working, just flip it. And just as something to establish this with, no, this is not a sequence of actions to take, but these are tools that you can use independently and you can combine in any order. So let's take a look at F, which is framing. No, you frame the conversation. You set the parameters about the conversation so it's not overwhelming. So this means that you directly state the purpose of the conversation, okay, no matter what it is. Don't make it too large that it becomes overwhelming and then you start to instill fear in whoever you want to have a conversation with. So this simply means that you explain what needs to be discussed and you offer corrective feedback, again, versus criticism, and you pay attention to the meaning beneath the words, no, without making assumptions. Okay. L is for listening and focusing. No, putting all your focus on the other person. You are not distracted. You're not doing anything else except to listen. You sit with that person. You suspend your assumptions about what you are hearing. Okay? You ask for clarity. You confirm what is heard, and you mentally see the other person's point of view. Okay. Third, we have I. Okay, which is you show interest. Okay, and be authentic about it. Be real about it. You ask questions to confirm what you just heard. Okay, you express curiosity also about the person's point of view, and then come from a space of genuine curiosity, like a child, where you just want to explore and be curious about what they have in mind, what they're really feeling. And you ask questions to increase your understanding of the other person. Finally, we have promoting, okay, which is actually linking unfavorable outcomes to non-compliance. Okay, state an idea assertively as an expectation. So you are in a space of healthily challenging whoever you're having a conversation with. No, I guess you're presenting stretch goals for that person. You state intentions to move forward and to tell the other person what is being proposed at that moment. So it's a gentle nudge, no? And depending on your relationship, the quality of your relationship with that person, you would be able to maybe correctly assess just what kind of push that person needs. No, if it's somebody who loves challenges, then you can give them really stretch goals. Okay, and so to recap, in conversations, when tension begins to show up and emotions need to be managed, okay, just flip the switch. Use this model and consider: is it time to listen more? Okay, is that what is lacking? Do I need to listen more? Do I need to show more interest? Do I need to promote intentions, or do I need to reframe the conversation so that it makes it easier, not just for you, but also for the person that you are having a conversation with? Okay. And so with that, okay, this is the last slide. I hope you're able to take a screenshot of this. Actionable takeaways include building trust and developing EI, emotional intelligence, to support individuals through the emotional intelligence approach for leaders, okay, which Ali will talk about later on. Be empathetic to understand and respond best to other situations. Again, no man is an island. We need each other. That's how things have been working in the last 2 years, okay, where you reach out, connect with other people, you collaborate with other people as well, and use the flip model to respond to difficult conversations. Okay. And so everybody, please take a deep breath as we now open the floor or the space for questions about our topic. Yeah. You can actually start maximizing the use of the chat. We will keep an eye on that. But for now, we'd like to thank everybody for making time again, no, in the last hour. Thank you so much for having us here and making us part of your day. And we hope that we have been able to actually enlighten us and maybe help you review what EI is. Okay, so maraming salamat and have a good afternoon. Ali, I'll turn over the space to you.
Yes, thank you again so much, Maita, for joining us also today. We appreciate your time, and also, especially to our participants. Thank you so much. I see we have like around 80 plus people in this room, which is a really great thing for every one of us here. We hope you really learned a thing or two. today. But before we leave you, before we let you leave this webinar, of course, we would like to invite you that if you enjoyed what you learned here, especially on the topics of emotional intelligence and other related topics, you can join us in our regional public programs that's available on our website, or you can also reach out to us through our email, that's solution@quintigal.com, or you can also follow us online through our channels at Quintigal Asia on Facebook, and on LinkedIn, it's Quintigal Philippines and Quintigal Singapore. Yes. And lastly, of course, we would love to hear your feedback. You can scan the QR code shown on the screen. Tell us what you think about this event, or if you have other suggestions on what other topics you'd like us to do on the next Learning Forum series, please do let us know through this feedback. And I think also my colleague, Jessica, has or will paste the link to, or has pasted the link of the same feedback form on the chat box in case you cannot access it through this QR code.